Transmitting to you from Old Heart Radio.
Prepare to have your bones chilled and your hairs raised. It's the WacArnold's Brothers podcast.
Oh my. It's that time.
Yes, sir.
Fresh in the day.
Dude, I was listening back to the Rocktober Blood episode. is an awful movie. One of the worst movies we've talked about. But I was in tears, and I don't know why I thought it was so funny because you just get accustomed to hearing that noise on the radio so much. But when we were talking about the one of the scenes in the movie, and you played the I was just in stitches.
It's a classic sound clip for a reason. It holds up. My God, dude, that movie was gnarly. I guess jumping into it. This is the 50th episode.
Yeah, holy shit.
Of the WacArnold's Brothers. We've plowed through 50 movies. We've been keeping up, and not 50 movies, but fair
because there are the
I guess we haven't watched 50.
Probably about like 42 movies.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's become like a ritual every week. Mm-hmm. To find a pick, to watch this pick, and then to talk shit about this pick. and it's genuinely like I'm surprised that we've reached 50 so fast. You know what I mean?
Right.
We've been recording for almost a year now.
Yeah, for about. Excuse me. About 4 more days, it'll be a year. That was the dentist was the first episode.
The dentist. Oh man, and I remember. When I remember the day this idea popped into my head, and the day I knew I needed to like try and get you on board, and I just think it's such a, I don't know, it's such a like fun thing to do with your friends, where I think kind of building in something like this, and
totally,
I'm just I'm grateful for every fucking episode, and so it's kind of fun to be able to look back on 50 episodes already.
Right.
Me and Lucas on Matinee Edition, we hit triple digits recently.
Damn.
Which is the second Old Heart Radio podcast to do that. The first Coffee and Contemplation, I'm at 134.
Holy shit.
Which is I'm going to shout it out right now. I have a new Coffee and Contemplation posting this week. So
when was the last time you did one?
It's been almost like 4 or 5 months, 6 months maybe.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. It's tough to squeeze that one in, but so getting to 50 so quick with this one is just it blows my mind, but it also like shows me that there's momentum behind it, which is super fun and super cool. And so thinking about like some of the
remember the pilot episode?
It was a locals yokel. Oh my God, I'm fucking up my own name. It was a local yokels episode that was like the pilot for the WacArnold's Brothers.
Yes,
that was another, like, the movie that we picked was like the Prophet's Game.
Right.
Was like it's a classic between you and I, you know what I mean?
Exactly. So is this episode 50, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And so it seemed like a perfect movie to start out with. I think one of the fun things about that episode is that we realized what that movie was like along the way, and we were just like, though it's like comedic as hell for us, we're just like, this movie is just like, it's a weird beast, and
it is,
and that's been the fun for almost every episode. Like, we have some like really great reflective episodes, but the backbone of this podcast is the monster of the week kind of theme, right? And like, oh my god, just thinking of some high and low points so far. Like I gotta put Sledgehammer like down here somewhere on the bottom of the ladder. You know what I mean?
We've referenced that one a lot, but yeah, it's like the low man on the totem pole. So is Bloodbeat.
Yeah. And I mean in
October Blood's down there.
I was gonna say Rocktober Blood, the other recent one we did was like, it's got to be down there, and like, you know, though those are like, you know, we reference those as sort of like, you know, low end of the ladder or whatever. It's not that they're not fun to watch. That's kind of the thing. Right. Sledgehammer was like a little different. That's why it's the bottom. Is because that movie we discovered had like such bad pacing on top of bad quality on top of like a weird script that it was just like too much almost. Yeah. You know,
the only redeeming quality of that movie was the interesting concept of the killer.
Yeah, like the weird like mythos and mysticalness of the killer, like mysticism. Because I remember, it was just like, it just left you with this question of like, is it like this like entity that's appearing? Is it
right? Because it like transforms into a kid. Like it's super weird.
Yeah.
But we've also done some like classics, like The Stuff.
Yeah, dude.
Halloween 3. You know what I mean?
Halloween 3 has maybe been, I have to maybe put that as one of my tops right now, because like favorite episodes, because it to me helped me like rediscover and reappreciate something that I had like cast aside, you know what I mean? Okay. And that on top of the fact that like, you know, just being able to like really enjoy that movie again was just a high note. You mentioned The Stuff too though, dude, like that.
I think that was episode 3.
Yeah, you can't not watch that movie and enjoy it, you know? And so that was a fun one to fucking riff on. What's been like one of your favorites that we've done?
For some reason, like, I wish, man, like in the moment right now, I'm just having like hazy, like brain syndrome where I can't.
Dude, there's so many,
fuck me, man.
I mean, we've also done like sequels. We've done like because we started out with The Dentist and we did The Dentist 2, like which was I think that was we had a Cliff Howard appearance in the Dentist 2, remember? And so that was like, that made
we've done a couple
movie all the better.
Clint Howard.
I said Cliff, yeah.
Cliff Howard. Yeah,
his cousin Cliff.
Well, because we did Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, which had a small Clint Howard cameo in it as well. We obviously talked about The Ice Cream Man, which is a Clint Howard vehicle.
Oh yeah, dude. That was another good one, man. Oh.
And then we also did another movie that was a Clint Howard vehicle that was really
Evil Speak.
Evil Speak, yeah.
Dude, Evil Speak was a good one.
That's an awesome movie.
That is. I actually, like, I saw, I think it was not like the current season. Maybe it was like season 3 or season 2 of Joe Bob. But Joe Bob Briggs did, like, I really want to watch the episode that he did on Evil Speak just because I've been hankering to watch that movie again. So I was like, ooh,
it's so good.
Yeah.
That was like a nice hidden gem that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah. There's also been some weird ones like Death by Temptation.
Oh yeah.
that one was sort of bizarre.
It's an interesting movie. Like,
it really is. It has like some depth to it that you don't expect, I think. Right, you know, but you're also just like intrigued by the portrayal of I don't know, like some of the characters are just ridiculous.
I know, but I like the actor James Bond.
James Bond the Third. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just like it was one of those movies where I didn't think I'd be sucked in by the performance, because I remember there's that scene where he like starts crying and it almost made me cry, which is so wild to think about. But yeah, that was a good one. We did another like more outrageous one was Edge of the Axe.
Oh yeah, dude. Edge of the Axe, man. Oh my god. Yeah, that one starts out with that classic guy on a motorcycle zipping around and then just takes you on a ride from there.
Now we did some classics like Pieces, you know what I mean? Like that's an iconic genre movie.
We covered Chud.
Chud, yeah. That's a great movie.
Oh man. And we've got, you know, like, and that's the fun is there's just, you know, like even with that, you know, kind of monster. What we got?
Say what you were gonna say, and then I'll.
I was just gonna say, even with the, you know, we got the great kind of like monster movie of the week kind of thing going, but you know, like we've also covered like other stuff too. But what were we gonna hop on?
Shockma.
Oh my god, dude! How can one forget about Shockma?
Oh, dude,
that fucking crazy baboon, dude, mauling people.
Him just like flying around like a fucking bat out of hell, just like
dude.
Just like
some of the best shots of that movie, yeah, dude, are just like Shockma just going fucking wild, running down the hall, just barreling into somebody, and then like next thing you know, that person's fucking toast. Yeah, dude.
I know he said it in the episode, but because you can't resist an awful pun like that. But yeah, he was just going ape in some of those scenes. We also, another like really kind of random one that we did was Mikey.
Oh yeah, dude, Mikey. It's, you know, dude, the troubled kid movies are, yeah,
they're great.
They're so great, and for some reason, you know, they can get under your skin. There's been like, I feel like, you know, along the way I've had a couple of picks that haven't quite worked out. Okay. Like I remember suggesting that Gary Busey Hider in the House.
I'm so glad we didn't do that.
Yeah, because like, you know, like you think like certain movies will be like will be fun to like riff on, and then they're just so bad, bland and bad that you're just like, man, I can't even like make fun of this and have fun. like
Candyman 3, you know what I mean? It's just a bad movie.
Yeah, it just ain't
one
good.
One of my favorites, and it's because it's like an actually good horror movie that I enjoy watching, is Dolls.
Ooh, yeah, dude. That one was a fun one, because like I feel like I missed a little bit like of the killer doll craze. Like it kind of like it hit like you I know you are more of an aficionado about killer dolls than I am, but like I feel like that's one of those movies like you can watch it and like it's like fun and funny and weird, and like, you know, it made me more interested in like other movies like Puppet Master movies again and stuff like that, you know, like and so I don't know, it's also fun to like not just make fun of these things, but like they like watching all these movies, they kind of like, as a horror fan, they help you like sort of suss out like what you really dig about certain like aesthetic and certain horror and stuff. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of fun shipping away. But like I was saying,
what were you gonna say?
Oh no, go for it.
We've also done two drastically different Tobe Hooper movies with Life Force and Eaten Alive, and they're just such different.
They are so different. Life Force about the space vampires, fucking crazy movie. It's a really cool movie. And then Eaten Alive, just a Tobe Hooper backwoods,
totally
like, fucking monster, you know, alligator monster movie, or crocodile, excuse me.
Crocodile, yeah. We could talk about Lake Placid another time.
Ooh, yes.
I've actually been wanting to revisit that, because I remember that was a movie when it came out. I was probably like 11, 12, and it was actually like an entertaining movie that I found myself watching. Same with like Deep Blue Sea. There's something about those like type of movies that are just, for some reason, they're just entertaining to watch. They're not like necessarily good horror movies, but they're entertaining enough to waste an hour and a half watching them. You know what I mean?
Well, the moment in Deep Blue Sea, for instance, like where you think they you know, it's fucking Sam Jackson,
right?
You know, just standing there, and then when he gets eaten by the shark that just comes busting into the fucking station, like you know this movie's going on a fucking ride, like
right, because it's kind of like it happens later in the movie, but it's kind of like a Drew Barrymore moment where you don't think that this person's gonna die, and then they just get axed.
But it's I would argue that Deep Blue Sea. Without Deep Blue Sea, you probably wouldn't have that string of like Sharknado movies and stuff like that.
Okay.
That came out like I never got into those per se, but like, it was like all like those like Sci-Fi Channel-esque like quality, like just I don't know, like giant shark movies. Like for like almost like 5 years, I felt like there was like Sharknado, Mega Shark. I saw a cover for something that was like Mega Shark versus Mega Octopus, and I was like, what the fuck are people doing? Like, yeah,
there's a bunch of weird ones like Croc monster versus
just
cyber sharks or some shit. It's like, what
exactly.
It's they're all just like the lowest of the low when it comes to budget. You know what I mean? Yeah,
those are the kinds of like it's very, I don't know. It's not even like that fun making fun of those because they're just they're meant to be so shitty, you know?
Right.
But we've also talked about, along the way we've had a couple of breaks from the norm where we've talked about, some of our actual like, go-to horror movies. We've talked about a couple of decades in horror.
Right.
And that kind of. So what?
No, continue.
I was just gonna say that's kind of fun to do because it's like, it's like as a lifelong fan of horror movies, I kind of, I don't know. It's nice to be able to flush out some of those ideas of your own, a little bit.
It's also, it's also nice to go through and like remember some of those movies that you haven't seen in a long time, or maybe pick out a couple that you've always wanted to see but never got around to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a nice reminder of like especially when we did the 80s one, it was like how much stuff, how many things came out in the 80s is just fucking mind-boggling. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that was like particularly that was one of the kind of great reminders and discoveries doing that those episodes, because it was like you forget or take for granted sometimes like how much happened in particular like in that decade. 70s was really influential in a lot of ways, but 80s was like, oh man, like it just blew up. And
totally.
And I feel like eventually we'll get to the 90s, because it's another like just juicy decade.
The 90s is weird because there's like a couple years there, like 92, 93, 94, where it's just kind of like horror was almost in a really bad place. And then when Scream came out, it was just like, like it just fucking flipped the genre on its head and revitalized it. So I can't wait to talk about the 90s.
Fuck yeah. And and that's kind of the thing. It's like, I think as we've discovered, sort of like going back and forth between doing some like more honed in special episodes and then doing like, the monster movie of the week episodes, like as the backbone. I feel like we've discovered that, there are like places that we want to stretch this podcast to,
And I have a shitload of different ideas, like maybe, I wanted to keep them kind of secret in case we ever did them, but I have a bunch of ideas, like maybe like an episode could be focused on one director or one type of genre, or, I just have a list of ideas that
absolutely.
I feel like I was saving for, when we get higher numbers, because I feel like, I don't think we could ever necessarily run out of movies to talk about, but there might become a time where it's like, we want to talk about something else. So
yeah, you don't. That's always like the thing to be. It's like as fun as it is. That's the interesting dynamic of like running a podcast that people listen to. In a way, like is that there is this like, I don't know. You don't want to tire yourself or people out with one idea, and so it's kind of fun in a way to like challenge yourself to do that. I love the idea of doing like an episode every now and then on like a particular director. You mentioned Tobe Hooper, like that would be a great episode to just talk about Tobe Hooper,
right?
Like and the contribution that person brought to fucking horror. Same thing with like, could you imagine how long a Wes Craven episode could be?
Right. I would personally love to have just a Dario Argento episode. You know what I mean? Like, so that just, there's so many good. I think that's an idea. You know what I mean? And
that's what I mean. Where it's like I feel like kind of in the future here, listeners, corn dogs will start finding like that we are going to start trying to stretch and do like slightly different things, and that's always fun. It's to try and try something new, I suppose.
There's also a couple movies that I feel like there's one of them that me and you have talked about that I wanted to do like a 2-part episode because it's so there's so much shit that happens in this. And then there's another movie that I feel like when we talked about doing this was a perfect movie for this podcast, and we just haven't talked about it yet. So, maybe saving that for like another milestone episode. You know what I mean? But like I said, I don't think we'll ever have a lack of movies to watch. And speaking of movies to watch, I watched this brutal movie on Shudder last night called The Sadness.
Oh, dude, I saw it on there. What is it? Worth it?
It is not for the faint of heart, bro. There is some gruesome. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. There's one scene in particular that I thought was a little tasteless and that I could have gone without. But it's a blood-filled gore fest with some awesome scenes of savagery. So I would highly recommend it.
Fuck yeah, dude. Okay, game on. Yeah, I always love when something like some fresh pops up on there, and it's like, ooh, yeah. Is that gonna be good? Is that gonna be?
I'm also. I think tonight I'm gonna watch the style. I believe it's called The Stylist, and it's actually there was like a horror anthology movie that came out a couple years ago, and this was one of the segments in it, and they turned it into a full length movie. And in the short segment, it's about this lady that's a hairdresser, and she cuts the scalps off of her victims and takes them home and like wears them in her basement, and it was pretty creepy. Shit. So I'm hoping that the full length is warranted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real.
It's the same actress, which is pretty interesting.
That's cool. Yeah. I haven't seen I'm also intrigued by, I think it's on Peacock right now. It's like the new version, the new remake of Firestarter. Have you seen like much of that? Like, do you think it looks intriguing?
I think that I really like I forget her last name, but the Kira, I forget her last name, but the girl actress, I really like her. I think that I was really kind of thrown a curveball with the Zac Efron casting. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just, when you think of Zac, I feel like he's just like typecasted, where you think about Zac Efron, you think about like a romantic comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But, you think, or High School Musical still.
I'm obviously going to watch it just because of the fact that it is a Stephen King work. So I just feel like the original with Drew Barrymore is a pretty good movie, but I feel like it, there's just some things about it where it didn't live up to its like full potential.
Okay. So
I don't know. I'm gonna watch it. I don't really have like an expectation set, so I don't think it'd be something where I'd go in and watch it and be like let down. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Yeah, you're not like, it's not like super hyped, so it's just sort of like it could be good, could be bad.
There's also like I went and saw the Northman last weekend. Robert Eggers' new movie.
How was that?
It was really good because it's more of like a it's not necessarily like a horror movie. It has like some horror elements in it, but it was really good. And then nice. Next weekend, I'm going to go see Alex Garland's new movie Men, which looks really interesting.
Yeah. I've been seeing trailers for that now. Like, it's been popping up. Damn, dude. That's interesting. I saw, what was it? On HBO's thing, they have M. Night Shyamalan's most recent movie, Old.
I still want to see that. I haven't seen that yet.
I'm always so like, I hate to say it because like everybody says it, but I'm so reticent to like watch a Shyamalan movie like a lot of times these days because there's been such hits and such misses with him.
Totally.
But that being said, like I've been terrified by some of the Shyamalan's movies in the past,
100%.
And so I'm kind of intrigued by that. You know, I remember seeing the trailer for Old, like, you know, when it was coming out, and it looked like a cool concept. Like,
yeah, it's totally like, and I've read like the Wikipedia about everything that happens, and it's totally like a Shyamalan movie, but I still want to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think that he still has some good ideas.
Yeah.
And, you know, he does have some lows, but I really liked the
Village?
No, not The Village, but it was one of his more recent movies, The Visit.
Okay.
You know, that was a decent movie. And then also, I haven't seen Glass yet, but it was the one before Glass with
what did he do right before Glass?
What's the guy's name that plays
James McAvoy?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just having a hazy
you're good. You're good.
Or James McAvoy.
Yeah, Split or whatever, right?
Split. Yeah, that's a solid movie.
That movie is solid. Like not just like the pacing and the overall movie, but McAvoy's performance in that movie was fucking crazy.
That movie also kind of put Anya Taylor-Joy on the map because she's like been in a bunch of really good shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, like I remember. I remember being like I remember seeing Signs when it came out. You know, Signs doesn't really like it holds up somewhat still, but like alien invasions and all that shit has always been like one of those things, like it gets me. And so like I remember when I saw that in the theater and then like leaving the theater and it was like dark out still, like, you know, like I was like, it was just like it set me in this like terrified fucking place, you know. So yeah, I mean Shyamalan's like one of those. I feel like overall he'll go down as like as having like a good body of work overall, but like
totally,
you know, there's been some misses, but yeah, you know, not that I don't know. It'll be interesting to sort of like we've been talking about, just to sort of see what's coming, not only for horror in general, but for us as well.
Right.
So I think people, you know, I think it's kind of fun that people are latching on. I was telling you about somebody who reached out today, and you know, and was like hailing their love of everything we're doing over here. And so I don't know, it kind of keeps fueling us. But we got to start leaning towards this movie we got set aside for this week, because for episode 50, and we've been like simmering on it. It's been, you know, like we've been waiting, and you know, we just had to do Pinocchio's Revenge for something special.
We just had to do it.
Oh yeah, we had to do it. Oh, man.
Hello, ladies. We hadn't done it yet, so we had to do it.
Oh man, and you know, this is just such a fucking redonkulous.
Oh my god,
redonkulous movie.
Dude, it is so much worse than I remember. Like,
yeah,
just the bad dialogue, the bad acting, the bad accident scenes. There's unnecessary filler. There's just really, really, really low and frankly uninteresting body count. It's just like it's such a weird movie because I was thinking about it. I was reading like this person's like review on it, and they, you know, the title is kind of misleading because what is Pinocchio getting revenge for? You know what I mean? And then he also mentioned how like the movie kind of starts where, you know, the character Jennifer, she's like a lawyer, where it kind of feels like there's some like half-baked like plots that don't really come together, because it'd have been interesting if there had been more of the like court proceeding parts, but those that happen are kind of like not necessarily important. I don't know. It's just I feel like they just try to cram too many different ideas into this movie. Because even when it comes to the end, you already kind of know like what's gonna happen, and then you know that the girl is the killer because they like heavily imply it with the backstory of Vincent Gatto and his son. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I feel like, I don't know. And the director, Kevin S. Tenney, like he's done some good stuff before. He directed the original Night of the Demons, which is one of my favorite, like,
oh dang,
guilty pleasure, like interesting plot movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like,
yeah,
a lot of, it seems like a lot of directors like just get to this point like later in their career where maybe they just have this like bombastic idea for a movie and it just doesn't pan out, because this movie just strikes me as like a made for TV movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and from it was a direct to video.
Yeah.
And so
Which
it's
makes
like,
sense.
yeah, it's like one of those, it shows like
Totally.
there wouldn't have been much of I think people would have maybe gone out to see it like initially thinking that it was going to be something that it wasn't, but I feel like hype would have died really fast for this movie in the theater.
Well, yeah. It's just interesting because I feel like the killer doll, like there's been so many great entries like TV and movie wise in the killer doll. And I feel like it goes through waves where that'll be like a popular motive or theme, and there'll be like a bunch of movies or about that, and then it'll kind of quiet down. Then it'll happen again where like in the last couple of years there's been, you know, Cult of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, the Annabelle, there's been Puppet Master spinoff. So it's like I feel like that's kind of a trend that comes and goes in waves.
That's
and
interesting. That's a good point.
If Pinocchio's Revenge was trying to like maybe revitalize that around that, because this came out in '96 and like shortly, I'm not getting the year right, but it was like Chucky 3 had come out, and that was like a really lackluster movie. And it was a couple years later when they like kind of not rebooted the franchise, but like went in a different direction with Bride of Chucky, which is an amazing movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a good point.
But there's a lot of I wanted to just take another detour before we start and talk about before we talk about a shitty killer doll, talk about some other movies or TV shows with dolls in them, for good or for bad, you know, because going as far back to the Twilight Zone, like one of my favorite episodes called The Living Doll is about this creepy talking Tina doll. You know what I mean? That terrorizes this family when this little girl gets it as I believe it's like a birthday or a Christmas gift. But, you know, there's been an X-Files episode about a doll that's really exciting. There's also been movies that were about a different thing but had a killer, like obviously Poltergeist with the clown, Saw with Billy the Puppet, the Trilogy of Terror with the Zuni fetish doll.
The Trilogy of Terror.
It's classic. And then another one of the most like not talked about movies is Magic with Anthony Hopkins, where he's a ventriloquist. It's fucking awesome movie, but I feel like it just kind of doesn't get mentioned, or it's like a forgotten movie. Because
I'm not familiar with that.
I highly recommend it. It's probably like 8 or 10 years ago. I was working at this donut shop before I got into my like a couple years before I got into, or like a year or two before I got into my addiction really bad. And the donut shop owner like turned me on to like a lot of good stuff. Like I would tell him some of the music I like, and he got me into more like blues and jazz. But anyway, I was talking about horror one day, and he's like, "Oh, have you seen Magic?" And I'm like, "What's Magic?" And but yeah. Anyway, and then obviously like more recent times we have Annabelle, The Boy, and The Boy 2. I liked The Boy, the first one. It was a really cool like killer doll centered movie with a really good like shock ending sort of going on. We have Dead Silence, which is directed by James Wan, who is one of my more recent favorite horror directors, Insidious, The Conjuring, Malignant. But I feel like Dead Silence is such a creepy movie and had such a good idea, but it just didn't connect for some reason.
Yeah.
Because there's some creepy ass fucking dolls in that movie.
Dude.
And we obviously have dolls, Puppet Master, demonic toys. Dolly Dearest is another one that I think would make a really good episode.
Okay.
It's a really, really weird movie, and there's this hilarious line where so in the Twilight Zone episode that I mentioned, the talking Tina always says, or maybe it was, I might be getting this mixed up, it's either the Twilight Zone or the X-Files episode, but the doll will go, "I want to play." And in the Dolly Dearest, it kind of has a line similar like that. And there's this hilarious scene where the brother, in the movie, there's this family, and the little girl gets this doll. Like, I don't want to lean too heavy into the plot, but the little girl gets the doll. And there's this scene where the brother is like confronting the doll with the shotgun, and the brother goes, "Play with this, bitch," and like shoots the doll with the shotgun. And then I apologize for taking up the last like 5 minutes, but we obviously
you're good, dude.
Can't talk about Killer Dolls without the Child's Play franchise, which is one of my most endearing and one of my favorite franchises of all time. And I'm super stoked.
The Child's Play franchise, like, if you ask me, it's the standard. Like for like slasher doll movies. Totally. But it doesn't, it like leans away from like demonic possession, stuff like that, even though Chucky is a possessed doll. But oh my God, dude, like, yeah, I'm with you. Like I like those are just like, they're fun movies. Chucky's like a menace, but he's also like, as he gets on, he's more and more of an asshole as well as being a menace. Totally. And I think it was because of your recommendation. I finally started checking out that the Chucky TV series. Yeah. It's so fucking great, dude. And it's like, and it's right in line with, the character of, that you're wanting. And so they didn't lighten it up that much for
it's so crazy because it's a continuation of what they recently did with Cult and Curse of Chucky. It brings in the legacy characters from the original trilogy and from Bride of Chucky, and then it establishes these new characters. I can't fucking wait for season 2 to see where they go with it.
That's what I'm saying, man. It should be held up again as like this example of what they could do. Like if a horror series, like I never got into it, but I remember they tried to make like a Scream TV series.
It was all right.
Okay. But it's like stuff like that, like, a property like Chucky here and what they've done with that season and including all that lore and stuff they've built up. Like they did it so well that it's like, there are tons of horror properties that you could do that to. Could you imagine though Hellraiser is like a really graphic, series of movies, you could do a weekly episode of like in that universe, but you can also establish characters and I don't know. It's,
They're about to reboot Hellraiser, and I hope that it's good because those like Hellraiser is a classic. Hellraiser 2 is really good, and then like Hellraiser 3 and 4 like are all right. They each have a couple like really creative, interesting scenes or Cenobites, but then the series like really falls off the rails. Yeah, and then the last one that came out. It was like Doug Bradley had played Pinhead the entire time, except for the last movie. And the last movie is just so atrocious. But I know what you're saying, whether, well,
same thing with like, could you imagine if they did like a Nightmare on Elm Street series?
It'd be interesting.
Like, again, you could probably do something with that.
Well,
like,
there's just so much lore. Like you said, there's just so much, or I think like they were trying to do a Friday the 13th series where, they leaned more on like who is like because the movies are so focused so much, especially the early ones, on Jason's like relationship with his dead mother, but we don't really know much about his father. I just think that a lot of different horror franchises, like for better or for worse, it would be interesting to see a TV show and see if they could make that work. Because I, honestly, with how good Chucky's been, I'm surprised, or I wouldn't be surprised if more franchises try that route, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, man, I mean, I would say that, like, for me, like, in terms of like killer doll movies, Chucky's definitely reigns supreme.
Yeah.
You know?
But we're going to talk about something that does not reign supreme. And before we jump into the movie, just a couple quick things. So we already talked about who directed it. The lady that plays Jennifer, the mom, her name's Rosalind Allen. She was like in a bunch of like 80s like episodes of TV shows like TJ Hooker, Knight Rider, and Matlock, but she was also in Children of the Corn 2 and Ticks, which I'm surprised we haven't talked about Ticks, because that's an awesome movie with some great creature effects, and it has Clint Howard. I meant to say that, but it has Clint Howard in it.
Dude, we should do Ticks, man. Fuck.
It's a great movie. And then we have the girl that plays Zoe, and it had been so long since I watched this movie. But there's sometimes in movies where a kid actor can come across just as really, really, really fucking annoying, and you just want to smack the shit out of him. And that's how she plays this role. Like, her character is so annoying, but she went on to be a singer and a songwriter. And I've never listened to her music, but her stage name is Matisse.
I'm just looking at that page. Like, yeah, Matisse.
Never listened to him.
The fuck
and then we have the character of Barry, Ron Canada. You might not really recognize the name,
but you recognize that face.
Yeah,
man.
when you see the face, you're like, "Oh, I've seen that motherfucker somewhere."
Hold up, I've seen you before. Yeah.
One more thing.
Where's it? What's he? What else has that cat been in? Like, just
he's been in a bunch of shit. He's been in like
oh my god, dude, his filmography is so large.
Yeah, because he has so many just like little bit roles in movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, that's not even worth trying to pull out. He's been in so many different things.
Here's another wild thing about this movie that I never realized until now. So, because like for a good chunk of the movie, Pinocchio's only in doll form, but when they cut when his strings get cut, there's a couple scenes where you can clearly tell it's like a real person. Mm-hmm. Vern Troyer played the Pinocchio body double.
Oh no way! Oh my god, dude! Dude, that's fucking epic. That makes this movie so much better. Like, just knowing that Vern Troyer was the body double, because there's very distinct moments where you're just like, that ain't a puppet.
Right.
Dude, that's awesome. Holy shit.
You know what is still about this movie is how did they not think to have a scene where Pinocchio's nose grows and kills somebody? Like, why did they not do that? Right? Like, it literally writes itself.
Exactly. Just like right through somebody's eye or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
why did they not do that?
But
so do you remember how we stumbled upon this movie?
Vaguely, very vaguely.
I wish it's like, I don't, obviously I remember like the Prophet's Game and like other stuff but I don't remember.
I remember watching it in Spokane once.
Okay. That might have been it.
I think we had, I can't remember if we had watched it previously before that or not, but I know that.
That's right. Cause I was like, right when like Netflix was becoming a streaming thing and we watched it on Netflix.
Yeah, dude.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Cause like we had to, just so you guys, the listeners are aware, we could not find this anywhere. We had to fucking watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, dude. there was like some random individual uploaded this in like 10 parts on YouTube.
Thank you, Codigan C, whoever you are.
Yeah, shout outs to you if you're out there still. Like that. It was just so frustrating because I remember very distinctly seeing it on fucking like Amazon like last year or something like that.
Okay.
You know, because like it's always one of those movies that, you know, you just know is out there. So sometimes you're just like, I wonder where this is, like if it's online. Right. And I remember they had it, and now it's just completely unavailable anywhere. And so it's just, I don't know. It's like outside of trying to buy the movie and watch it in time, this was the best option for sure.
Right. Real quick, one more thing before we jump in. I mentioned before we started recording that I had something I wanted to talk about. So there's a YouTube channel that I watch called Triple Jump, and they do a lot of like video game reviews, but one of their like reoccurring segments is called Worst Games Ever, where they sit like to these two guys and they sit, one of them plays the game while the other like drops facts about the game, and they just sit and they riff on it, and it's absolutely fucking hilarious. But one of the ones I watched recently was an American Idol game that came out for the PlayStation a long time ago.
Really?
And it was based around season 2. And I remember when I had the Ruben Stoddard CD.
Yeah, Ruben Stoddard. Dude.
Ruben Stoddard.
You were the only human being I've ever met who had that Ruben Stoddard CD.
I still remember that fucking his like one hit song. It's called Sorry for 2004. And there's
dude. Oh my God.
There's this hilarious line because the song is like there's where he's like explaining these scenarios that went wrong, and then he goes
I'm tearing
damn.
up.
He goes where he explains these scenarios and he's like, damn, I'm sorry. But there's this part where he goes, it's like building a house with no roof and no door and no walls. Damn, I'm sorry.
Oh my God, dude.
Ruben Stoddard CD.
Dude, I can't fucking leave that. Oh my God, I'm so glad you brought that up. Like like that was like we laughed about that for so long. Like just I'm sorry for 2004.
And I ain't gonna mess up no more.
Oh my God!
One of my favorite things about having
Ruben
about that CD was like people would get in my car and go to pick a CD out and like be flipping through everything and be like, "Why the fuck do you have a Ruben Stoddard CD?"
The most random one in the lineup. But it got some plays, man. It did get some plays.
I also had that like it was actually maybe I think you might have gifted it to me, but it was a CD that had Jesse McCartney. I think it wasn't Jesse McCartney. It was Jesse McCartney, but he had his own version of "I Want Candy."
No, it's Aaron Carter, dude.
Oh yeah, Aaron Carter.
It was like a Kids Bop sounding "I Want Candy" song, basically, where he was like thirsty as fuck for some other like little teen girl. But
because they switched the lyrics. You know what I mean?
The best thing about that album in particular was that there's this whole track on there where it's like Aaron Carter playing Shaq, or Aaron Carter playing basketball with Shaq, and it's like How I Beat Shaq or something like that. It's just like such a like that whole album is just like such a little like you fucking punk, get out of here kind of thing.
I forgot the other songs, but I just remember we just blast "I Want Candy."
I want candy. Oh my God,
dude, classic.
Ruben. Oh my God, I can't believe you brought that Ruben Stoddard song up. Yeah. I just pulled up some of the lyrics. Girl, this is my sorry for 2004. I ain't gonna mess up no more this year. I like that. That's like so specific. Like that's what I remember. That was one of the things that kept cracking us up. It was that line. It's like, I'm not gonna mess up no more. this
year. Yeah.
So it's like leaving it open for a sorry for 2005, just in case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my fucking God, dude. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
that was good. Aaron Carter. Yeah. That's
oh my God. And speaking of that garbage, that gives us a great segue into this hot garbage, because like we said, we found it on YouTube. So if you want to watch it, you can find it on there also.
Yeah.
This movie, Pinocchio's Revenge from 1996, is just,
man.
It's damn. So it picks you up in a place where you think it's like, it feels kind of dark, like it could go in a pretty heavy direction, but it's like it kind of opens right in the nighttime, where this cop's like stumbles upon a car pulled over, and he almost hits the vehicle and gets out, sees some fishy things. There's like a cloth with some blood maybe in the car. Well,
because he calls in the license plate first, and they're like,
that's right.
There's no warrants, but he, being a very thorough cop, he goes and like grabs his flashlight and looks around and notices like a shirt with some blood on it in the back seat. So he's like, I got to go investigate this.
Yeah, and that leads him down the pathway where there's what.
By the way, this it opens with a title card that tells us that we're in Tampa, Florida, and this is 5 years ago. Yeah. So not like it's important, but
so you follow. But from there, you kind of follow this dutiful officer of the law down the closed road, where he discovers a figure digging a hole, and like the figure looks menacing. It's like raining and thunder and lightning out. This dude's like drenched and he's just shoveling away. Right?
But we see him like digging the grave, and he puts you see there's two different things like wrapped in cloth. He puts the first one in, and then as he's going to put the second one in, he lifts the cloth up, and you see that it's the body of a little child.
Yeah.
And he even kisses the forehead before going to put him in and
gives him a good night, sweet prince. Well, and it's and so that's exactly what I mean. Where it's like it sets up this like stage of like, ooh, dude, is this like a child murder? The cop's like pulls his gun on the guy, and he's like, drop your shovel, and the guy doesn't, and then he has that great line. Like the cop has this kind of a squeaky voice, so when he yells, I said drop the fucking shovel. It's not nearly as intimidating as I think he'd hoped.
No, not at all.
But either way, he does seem to. The guy does seem to, the man digging the shovel, digging the grave or whatever, does seem to.
Vincent Gatto.
Yeah, you find out he's Vincent Gatto. And
I'm really glad that his name wasn't Joe Petto. Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, where it's like a little too like on the head, on the nose. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
dude, it's just like too obvious. Oh my God, dude.
But yeah, the guy drops the shovel.
Yeah, and then it kind of cuts to like sort of the next day, where it's like more officers are standing around the scene of the crime here, so to speak, and that's when they discover what also was in the grave. Yeah,
they're like digging. They see like a hand emerges from the dirt, and they think it's another body, so they obviously continue to dig, and they unearth. We get the first shot of this partially buried, like a wooden Pinocchio doll.
Yeah.
They're like, they even mentioned something like, what the hell's going on here, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It, throws you for a loop. And like, as a viewer, also kind of, you're just like, what? Okay. Why is this doll in this grave?
Totally.
But then supposedly, so from there, supposedly kind of, I imagine it jumps forward a little bit.
To present day.
To present day. And then you kind of pick up where there's like a newscaster in a courtroom, and she's like, Vincent Gatto is on trial today, and so you find out that like, this dude's been arrested, he's detained, he's being sentenced today.
They mentioned that his new execution date is less than a week away, but his attorney has filed for a commuted sentence with the state court of appeals.
Yeah.
And she mentions that his future is being decided now in this very courthouse, and then we get our first courthouse or court proceeding scene. You know what I mean? Like where we get introduced to Jennifer Garrick, who is Vincent Gatto's lawyer.
Yeah, and and this is something that like does kind of baffle you for the most part in the movie, where it's like this person's very pursuant of like getting him off the hook for death. You know what I mean?
She thinks he's innocent.
Yeah. And so like you know, like from here you're just like, I don't know. You're just like, I don't know why this person cares that much. But she seems to file, like in this whole courtroom scene, she seems to file like another motion, you know, with the judge to try and stay this or commute the sentence. And
yeah, because she talks about how she noticed some discrepancies in the original investigator notes, and she believes that if she was given enough time, she can account for Gatto's whereabouts during 2 of the alleged homicides.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe.
And then the judge is kind of like, well, you know, he wasn't convicted for those crimes, and that he was only charged and convicted for only one murder, the murder of his own son.
Yeah. And this is kind of where you find like, you know, like that there's, so like like that kid that you saw earlier, that's allegedly probably his son.
Totally.
And so, you know, like then, you know, kind of drifting out of the courtroom scene and kind of picks up with Jennifer at home, presumably, where she is like going through crime scene photos. And,
totally.
You know, there's like a classic chalk outlines of bodies and blood splatter on cement and stuff, you know. We
see in one of the pictures that it looks like it's 2 dead children that are in this picture, which are the other 2 deaths that they were talking about in the scene just before that, where she believes that Vincent Gatto didn't kill these 2 kids. So
yeah,
but then her daughter comes fucking running up, you know what I mean? This is when we get our first sight and our first Zoe. And I don't know, dude, like I said, it's just something about, I don't know if it's her voice or what, but she is just so annoying. Everything she says is annoying. It just drives me crazy.
It's like a head scratcher. It's like, how did this child actor get this role?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like, yeah, their acting is just not that great. No Macaulay Culkin. That's all I'm going to say.
No.
You know, the gold standard of all child actors. But yeah, there's like, you know, Jen, like she stumbles in and sees all these nasty photos. Jennifer's like, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing up?" And like takes her off to bed and, you know, goes and, you know, tucks her in and it's just, you know.
Yeah. Zoe tells her that she had a bad dream. And we kind of learn here that, you know, Jennifer is, divorced from her husband, you know what I mean? She's raising Zoe, but Zoe's dad is out there because Zoe mentions that she had a dream about her dad and his new girlfriend, and they were both dead. But she has a really, like I said, she has a really annoying voice. She's like, "It was about him and her new girlfriend. They were both dead." Like, I can't like mimic the voice because it's a kid's voice, but it's just, I don't know. I'm gonna. It's
like weirdly, it almost comes off as like upbeat, all of her presentation, and so it's just sort of like it's just off-putting.
Yeah,
you're like, I don't know. It's bizarre. It's good that they went on to singing instead.
I guess so.
But you know, then we kind of, it just seems like maybe like next day or something, and
right.
You pick back up with Jennifer at her office, and this is where you get your first Raw in Canada appearance.
Because yeah, she gets to her office, and you can see that her chair is like turned around. She goes to turn the chair around. This is when we see the Pinocchio doll from earlier sitting in the chair, and it like startles her. And then yeah, Barry Ron Canada walks in and explains that it's a part of the evidence request she asked for. She's like, oh, I forgot about that. I asked for that 3 months ago, and she hopes that it'll help with the appeal. And I'm like, what would this doll have to do with an appeal? You know what I mean? It's just the dumbest way to like introduce this doll into the movie.
Yeah, I agree. It's like you could have done it in a number of different ways, I imagine, but like it just seemed like it was easy writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay. And,
okay.
You know, here, like it's needed for evidence. But you get like this great, like kind of closing out that scene, you get this great close-up shot of the doll's eyes.
Right.
And like, it's not the only one that you get of the doll's eyes, but this is just bright blue. The doll itself, like, I don't know. It doesn't look menacing. It doesn't.
Right. It doesn't. Barry has this line that's like, I don't know if they were trying to like throw shade at like the political world or whatever, because there's this line where Jennifer's talking about how she's going to ask the judge, or if the judge turns down her appeal, that she's going to ask the governor for a stay of execution. And Barry's like, never happened, not in an election year. So it's like, it's just random line where they're like, what are they trying to like say? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, not in an election year. Weird. Yeah, because it's like I don't know very many politicians that like advocate, like ride on the platform of like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy.
Right.
But you know, like it's strange because like, you know, you jump from this to a school setting where, you know, like you see like a couple of like, you know, classmates of Zoe like passing a note back and forth, and it sort of, you get the vibe in this scene that like Zoe has this terrible line. I just got like this, you know, like the teacher asks her something and she just goes like, she has this like really smug like good kind of response, right. And it's just like, oh, it gets under your skin, but you get the vibe that like she's maybe not like friends with too many people. Yeah, there's this other girl named Beth, you know, that we kind of get this little like back and like you know, like the teacher asked, they're reading a book about a character named Matilda, but it's not Matilda Roald Dahl. It's like, I don't know what they're reading. Yeah, but she asks Beth like what she thinks the moral is, and you know, Beth wasn't really paying attention. She was too busy passing notes. And then she asks Zoe. Zoe gives the answer. And then we get Beth kind of agrees with her. And then the teacher says that next week they're going to start Dr. Dolittle. And Zoe has this sick burn where she goes, good. Beth loves to do little. Dude, she does it. Zings her really quick. Ridiculous. So. Oh man, and yeah. So it is strange. It just builds up, you know, this like weird animosity between some of the classmates, and then so kind of you end up picking them back up with Jennifer, who's at the jail visiting Vincent Gatto, and you know, she's like explaining that she's trying to get his sentence commuted or whatever, and he's just like, why? I want, you know, like, why would you let me die, basically, you know, like, yeah, even goes as far as to, you know, tell her that he killed his son, and that even if he was free, like his life would be meaningless. She asks he also mentions, you know, why would you want to extend my stay in this hellhole? But she goes on to talk about how she knows that he didn't commit those other murders, and that the real killer's out there. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, he like smacks the glass to try to, you know, scare her, but she's not put off by it. And then she asks him, why did you bury him with a puppet? You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's funny when he smacks the glass, you can hear like a guard in the background, like off the glass. But yeah, it's like a really dramatic back and forth between those two, like in this scene. And yeah, like you just tell, like, you know, this dude's hiding something, man. Like,
right.
You know, when he hangs up the phone just to and like dismisses himself, basically, he's just like, I don't know. You just get the vibe he doesn't want the help at all.
Right. Because she goes on to, you know, he talks about how he made the Pinocchio doll for his son for his birthday. And she's like, well, that's not exactly the actions of a deranged murderer. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, well, there's a lot of like famous serial killers that, you know, did things that weren't exactly conducive of a deranged murderer. Just because someone whittles dolls out of wood doesn't mean they couldn't go out and commit murder. It's just so random.
That's her biggest point when she brings it up in court. She's like, listen, Judge, he whittled a doll for his son. Of course he couldn't have done it.
Right. But yeah, she you mentioned that he gets up and hangs up the phone and starts to walk away, and she asks him who he's protecting. And this is where he kind of gets more angry and tries to run at the glass again, and tells her to let him die, as like a couple of corrections officers have to wrangle him up and drag him away. So she thinks that you know, he's protecting somebody, and that she's trying to figure out who and why. You know what I mean? He's not being very cooperative.
No, he is the opposite. And yeah, so, you know, it kind of, you know, it's sort of bouncing back and forth between Jennifer and Zoe scenes. It sort of brings you to another Zoe scene where it's like, you know, like she's at the school, everybody's like leaving for the day or something, and you know, she's like starts passing out. She's like Zoe's waiting at the door to hand out invitations to her birthday party. Mm-hmm. And this seems so fucking ridiculous. So like she's handing out invitations. She gets to marry Beth or whatever her name is in line.
Beth. Just Beth,
not Mary Beth. Just Beth, and she skips Beth. She pulls the invitation back, and she's like, "Not one for you." And the motherfucking Beth just grabs the rest of the invitations and like runs off with them. Say like yelling like something like, "Oh, I never miss a good party."
Oh yeah.
and then her and Zoe get into this scuffle, you know, where, you know, Beth is like dumps all the invitations into some mud. Mm-hmm. And like pushes Zoe or some shit, and like Zoe just lunges at her and just like I forgot about this, but Zoe just like lunges at her, and she's not like smacking her or anything. She goes and fucking Mike Tyson's her ear. She bites that shit off, dude. Like, it's just the most random thing. Like, why would this little girl jump to like biting this lady's ear? Like, well,
at the same time though, like
Beth is a little bigger than her too. So
for some reason, like I remember, like at that age, like there was kids that would like bite people, like bite your arm or whatever. Like it was kind of a really weird thing that kids would do, not realizing like what they were doing. You know what I mean? It's like not a normal thing to do. You don't bite somebody. You know what I mean?
Like smacking him's one thing, biting him is a whole other.
Yeah. Beth gets fucking Evander Holyfield, you know what I mean? Basically, yeah, she bites her ears.
She does, dude. She gets wild. Oh my god, dude.
But and you know, basically Beth's friends, you know, pick her up, and she's like, "I told you she was crazy." You know, Zoe ends up having to pick up, you know, the muddy invitations. You know, and then we see her. Now she's running out the front door of school. Jennifer picks her up and notices the blood on her lip. That
was like that. The blood on the lip, like, is that you don't ever have to think like, is that your blood or is that somebody else's? But in this case, you probably should have checked. Because she gets in the car with their mom, and then they see you know, Beth riding by on her bike. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's just I don't know. It's just such a weird scene. You get this like little savagery from Zoe all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then it jumps to like, you find out that she's Zoe's in therapy because she goes to like this,
Dr. Edwards.
Dr. Edwards. He's, I don't know. He's a bit of a humdrum. She's like, she's sitting there like painting, and he's like, I don't know, telling her to like, he's basically just like, being like, you gotta, move on from this hurt that you've been caused.
One thing that's funny about his character is like, I feel like they must have looked up cliche psychologist sayings, because any scene that he has, he's always like, it happens later in the movie too, but he always has, it's just like he's just throwing out this like basic stuff that a psychologist would say, what I mean, or he's like it's natural to and even healthy, it's part of the healing process. It gets worse later, but it's like it's when it comes to like dialogue and stuff like that, I feel like his is a particular low point, because it's like, you're right. It just seems like really generically written, his lines, like 100%. Yeah.
And also you're just kind of like, it's strange. Like they alluding to, Zoe being hurt, and you can't tell if it's like, at first it's like, it's strange because you're just like, I can't tell if it's because like they're divorced or whatever, they're just not seeing each other, or if like their dad was like a real piece of shit and like actually like,
because it never
like physical with her or something, like.
Yeah, I don't think so, but they never explain it. That's a good point.
Yeah, it feels like a little like like a lot of other elements. This is just not fleshed out too well.
She probably feels like abandoned, or however a kid would feel at that age. You know what I mean? Like at least when like before like when my mom kicked my dad out, you know what I mean? It was like I was old enough to realize, you know what I mean? But at a young age like that, who knows how you would how
you perceive the situation.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. Well, after the substandard therapy session, you find that Zoe and Jennifer, and then Sophia, the like basically like, I don't know, babysitter.
She's like a live-in maid essentially.
Yeah. Okay. And they're all back at the house, and Jennifer gets a phone call, and it seems to be from Zoe's father. And the first phone call she gets it's from Beth's mom. That's right. Yeah. Finding out about, which is like crazy to me that this is the first moment that Jennifer's found, like has been told about the incident at school, right? Like they're at the school, this little kid bit the ear of another fucking kid, and you're telling me that nobody, no teacher or like principal was like, all right, I'm gonna have to call your parents.
It's a good point.
But yeah, you're right. She gets the phone call from Beth's mom and finds out about the whole incident, and that's when she like starts questioning Zoe about it, and kind of decides to sort of Zoe has a classic kid response where she asks her why she bit her, and Zoe goes, she started it. Yeah, right. No matter what happened, they started it. It wasn't me.
Yeah, and then the phone rings, and this is where
her Jennifer dad calls.
Gets a call from someone named Warren, who we learn is Zoe's dad, but she just does not like. She goes to give the phone to Zoe, but Zoe doesn't want any part of it. Like she basically is like, I don't, she's like nonverbal. She does not want to speak to her dad for whatever reason. Yeah,
exactly. And so it's one of those things that, again, you just feel like there's like a bigger story there somehow, but this leads Jennifer to kind of getting a little angry and being like, you're grounded for the next 2 weeks or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's when Sophia reminds her kind of quietly, like, you do know that like Zoe's birthday is Friday, right?
Right.
Like,
Jennifer's like, shit. She's grounded till then.
Yeah, basically. Classic parent move. Like, well, fine. Fuck.
Yeah. Then Zoe like tries to. Sophia, kind kind of goes into Zoe's room and tries cheering her up. She gives her killer whale stuffed animal, which we learn is her favorite. And then Sophia goes on to basically tell Zoe, you know what I mean, that your mom's under a lot of stress and that Zoe needs to do her best to try and help her out as much as she can.
Yeah, which is an interesting dynamic. It's always like, yeah, you just need to be cool, you need to be chill. Sophia really you could tell glues those pieces together. She's the
right.
She helps that move along. But then jumping from that, you go right into another courtroom scene where you kind of find the fate of Jennifer's motion.
Yeah,
and you find out that the judge denies the stay of execution.
Yep.
And that's when, going out of the courtroom, she gets bombarded by a bunch of reporters and like everybody's just shoving, microphones in the face. And this is where you learn, I guess, her kind of beef with things is like Jennifer has this line where she mentions, she's like, it's your fault. Like, it's the media's fault for calling him like a convicted serial killer when he was only convicted of killing one person.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. It's a weird reason to have a soft spot for somebody, I suppose.
Yeah.
You guys defamed him. I don't know. It's strange. But then, you kind of go into this Green Mile-esque scene where it's at the prison and, some guards are walking a now freshly bald shaved Vincent Gatto to the electric chair,
which is very barbaric,
dude. I was gonna say, man, like, not that much in this movie gets you, but like this scene maybe got me the most out of things because the idea of the electric chair and like having heard and read stories about, how some people have had back in the day would have multiple like passes, basically, like wouldn't take the first time. And so they'd zap them again and stuff, like seeing somebody like get zapped and like convulse in this chair, no matter what was just kind of unsettling, even in this scene. Yeah.
Cause correct me if I'm wrong, but is Texas still the only state that does the electric chair?
I don't know at the moment. Like, I'll look that up. But
should look that up.
But either way, it's like, in this scene, like they do a fair bit of like work. They put the mask on him. Clearly, they've like shaved him to make like they do in real life. Like, yeah, I don't know. It just kind of doesn't sit well.
Yeah, and Jennifer's there. Obviously, she's one of the people that's there to witness.
Just real quick. So in the U.S., as of 2021, the states that allow the electric chair as an execution are Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Don't go killing people in those states.
Yeah, don't go to the wow. Yeah.
It's wild that there's multiple states that still fucking do that.
Yeah. I thought it was it's interesting.
I definitely would have thought Texas would have been on there though.
Yeah, because I feel like lethal inject, like, okay, so I guess at the end of the day, like the people that are on death row, like they obviously did something to warrant that, but I still feel like the electric chair is kind of just a really like outdated, barbaric way, like lethal. You know what I mean? Like lethal injection.
I agree.
Anyway, that's kind of off topic, but so he gets fried. So yeah, Vincent Gatto's dead.
Yeah, dude, and there's this like dramatic music playing. This choral choir music playing in the background while his body's just like sitting there steaming limp. It's pretty fucking ridiculous. And then, so after seeing this witnessing this awful thing, Jennifer finds herself at a church where she's, I don't know, contemplating fucking life, mortality probably at this point.
Yeah, the priest has this pretty funny line actually where, like he comes up and she tells him that Catholic anymore, and he tells her that it's not a Catholic church, it's Episcopalian, and then he says, sort of like Catholic light. Such a random joke.
It's so weird. It's a Catholic light. Yeah, it's like whoever was writing this had some beef with like with Catholicism.
I guess. Yeah. But yeah, they end up going to have a cup of coffee together. And she, they're talking about her situation with work and Zoe and about the therapist, the nightmares, and how this is where I'm saying where it has a lot of these like terms that are just basic, like psychology terms where she goes, yeah, he says that she has a lot of repressed hostility.
Yeah. It's just such generic, like you said, you nailed it on the head. It's just such a generic lines, like, but yeah, I don't know. You also get the vibe from the scene that like Jennifer's also got some stuff that she's, like struggling through. She mentions that like, she deals with a lot of bad people, like, and I don't know, but it also sounds, I mean, you get the vibe that like she's pretty down in the dumps because she really thought that this dude was innocent, like she is like, the first time I, had a case where he was innocent and like, this is what happens, or whatever.
Yeah. And that kind of carries into the next scene where she's back in her office and has another conversation with Barry, where he's telling her to not let the outcome of the trial tear her up inside. And she goes on to talk about how the other two kids were beaten with a blunt object, but that Gatto's son was strangled. And she asks like why with the different MO, and Barry brings up something interesting that, maybe the other murders were planned, but his son was a spur of the moment type murder. But she thinks that,
Barry also has this great line in the scene where it's a funny shot also because it's like, the Pinocchio doll's like sitting across from Jennifer and she's like, looking at it. And you get these shots of Barry near the doorway and the Pinocchio doll's head in kind of the forefront. And, Barry goes, well, evil can come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
It's like, no shit, man. That's the movie we're watching. Okay.
Right. And Jennifer still, is carrying on about how she thinks that he was protecting somebody and says how the killing stopped after he was arrested. Or no, Barry was like, but the killing stopped after he was arrested, right? How do you explain that? And just walks away. You know what I mean? Which is a good point.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that.
And then we see Jennifer. She's driving home, and she has this scene where she goes to reach back for her purse and doesn't realize that. Like we see that the Pinocchio doll is in her back seat, and she doesn't realize it because she calls Sophia.
Does she get a splinter in there or whatever? She's moving her arm back there and she like pulls it back up because she gets like, I
forgot about that.
But anyway, it's just funny that when you go from, not knowing the doll's in there, like to later on, it's like you have to wonder how the fucking doll got in your car, right? But anyway, so she gets back like to her place and like it looks like they're setting up for for Zoe's birthday. Yeah.
Sophia's there. Sophia and Zoe are obviously there, but we also David's there, who's Jennifer's boyfriend. Yeah, they're setting up the birthday party, blowing up balloons, and David is talking with Jennifer about, he tells her that the kids are going to be there any minute. He tells her to go relax, change clothes, and that he'll grab the stuff from the car and take care of whatever else needs to be done. And then we get this funny line where Jennifer like finally like gives in and agrees and kisses him and says, "Thanks, I owe you one." And he goes, "That's true. Now I'm going to collect later." What a dog. You know?
Dude, yeah, I know. That's what I thought too. And I was like, this dog, he's in it to get in it. He's in it.
I guess so.
But dude, and then like just like the cut from that to like you get the scene, Jennifer's like, you know, in a different outfit walking out of the room, and like, oh my god, dude, even before she gets to the main living room, you just hear the screams and screams and screams of children at the party, and it's just like, oh my god, the noise.
Right.
And then
they're playing pinata.
Yeah, that's like in the middle of the living room. David's like yanking the pinata up and down, kids are swinging at it. And then that's when you see like, oh, you know, there's all the commotion, and then Jennifer notices the Pinocchio doll just sitting there on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you get another close up of the eyes.
Yeah, it also like plays this really generic like tense music that you know that plays throughout the movie during any scene involving Pinocchio.
Yeah, it's like weird, slow, like I don't know, like vocal music.
Yeah, and you could tell that Jennifer is really off-put by the sight of Pinocchio, and David tells her, you know, that he's sorry, but that Zoe spotted it before he could get it wrapped, because he just assumes that
it's a present or something.
Yeah.
But there's this, oh my god, but there's just the great kind of slow sequence where it's like Pinocchio's eyes or eye are kind of like overlaid over the activity of like the birthday. Yeah.
Oh my god. And it's
god. Like there's like a slow like happy birthday. Then like all the kids are clapping at one point. It's just like the fucking bad shots of the eyes, dude. There's so many shots of the fucking eyes in this movie.
I know, it's really interesting choice.
But yeah. But so, you know, like it kind of picks up near like you know, the last guest has just left or whatever, and you know,
which makes me think, when I was that age and I had a birthday party, I'd always have we'd have a birthday party and then a couple friends would stay over. It wouldn't just be like everyone just leaves. Like, yeah, I feel bad for her that, you know, she didn't get to have a sleepover on her birthday. Yeah,
sleepovers were always the shit.
Fuck yeah, I was the king. Even in like high school, like I loved like just staying over at a friend's house. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it was always just. I remember it was just always. It was fun. It was different. You know, sometimes different rules. You know.
I think for me, and we're getting way off topic, but when I was younger, I think it was like just because of some of the losses that I had, that I felt like when I was younger, like it was like subconsciously, I just like always wanted to be around people. You know what I mean?
Oh, now
that I'm older and sober, like I feel like I'm a way more not a loner, but I'm a way more like just kind of do things on my own.
Well, there's a certain. Are you like? I don't know if this is the case for you, but I found that like I've gotten. Yeah, I feel like I've gotten more comfortable in a way doing things by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, you know, it's not always like the healthiest thing, but I think it's also good. Like, dude, our homie Troy Vines, shout out to Troy Vines. He, when he was down in Hollywood, he would always go, because he didn't know anybody. He would just like go to movies and do stuff by himself. And I remember talking with him when he came up one break. And that was sort of like an enlightening moment for me, where it was like, where he was just sort of like, I don't know, I just shook off the idea that like I should feel weird doing things by myself, like, right. You know, going to see a movie by myself. It's like, you know, there's like for a really long time, that's what you want is like to be around other people and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And you know, that's an interesting thought that you shared. You know, I you know, some of the things in your life maybe leading to that. And I remember growing up, the main motivation for me, like, was just getting away from my house. You know, fair. Like I love my family, you know, for who they are, but it was always one of those things that it's like, it was such a stifling environment in a lot of ways. And that it was like going over to anybody else's house was like felt so freeing, and like, you know, in comparison,
That makes sense.
And that it, you know, and it felt like I was accepted more for who I was from other people and other people's parents at times, or like family members at times. And so
True. Well,
you
it
know,
also, not to like talk bad about Caleb, but he was kind of like a cliche, like a character from a movie where he would like constantly pick on you and like all of your friends. Like he was like that bully in school where Fitzgerald, you know what I mean? Like he would always like have to make my life like hell for some reason.
Yeah, like I love like it's but like it's I love the person my brother's grown into.
That's good.
You know what I mean? And he's actually, dude, one of the things I got shout outs to Caleb. Actually, he's been super supportive of the podcast network here, and
That's
so
cool.
to the point that he even wants to like find ways to like really get involved, like in terms of like business sides, the business side of this thing.
Interesting.
And, yeah, which is awesome. But yeah, dude, growing up, like there's no denying, like one of my biggest bullies growing up was my older brother. And that kind of, that kind of fell to like a lot of my friends too, where it's sort of just like, all right, man, like I'd rather let's just find something else to do than be here in case we were going to get like a fucking chest grinder right in the sternum, you know, like shit like that, you know? But yeah. Okay.
Back to the movie though.
Yeah. we're waxing about childhood. We'll pull back a little bit because, where were we? You pick up sort of as the last person's leaving the party, and Jennifer turns around and kind of goes back into the living room, and Zoe's like all wrapped up with the Pinocchio, like immediately attached to that doll. It seems like, and this is, you know, it kind of becomes this like sort of cliche scene where it's like, all right, I'm going to put the kid to bed. Pinocchio's there staring at her. It's all good. And then she goes down, meets David by the fireplace in the living room. And David's come to collect. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so they kind of snog a little bit, and then like, you know, one thing probably leads to another. And
well, because you see, they're like kissing on the couch, and then you see the camera like pans over to see like the doll peeking around the corner, watching them. Then you get a POV shot from like the doll's height of someone walking up to them, and then you get jump scared by Zoe with the doll. And David ends up, you know, basically explaining about, like, goes into a story about Pinocchio and how he talks about how Pinocchio tried really hard to be good so he could become a real boy, but that he kept giving into temptations and doing bad things, and kind of explaining more of, you know, how his nose grew every time he told a lie, you know, about the cricket as his conscience, and basically just gives like a backstory about how Pinocchio kept doing these bad things, and then he tries to like scare her by saying, "Now he's coming after you."
And now he's coming after you. It's so ridiculous. And then, so, you know, this is also, we get a really kind of strange sequence, if you ask me, at the tail end of this scene. So where it's like they're macking on the couch, like I said, and then it transitions into this really passionate love scene between David and Jennifer, where there's lots of moaning and writhing. But I got a shout out to the dude who put this on YouTube. Like, the dude chopped up all like you know, to get it kind of on there, chopped off the nudity and like the weird the sexiness,
which is unnecessary anyway.
Yeah, it is all filler, but yeah,
you can see that.
What's gnarly about this scene is that it transitions from that into a scene of Zoe basically in the next room listening to them fucking.
Right.
And you're like, okay, no wonder this kid's got some fucking issues right now.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's just weird. Yeah, she like listens to them have sex,
and then like goes and like grabs the Pinocchio doll or whatever. Yeah,
because he like slumps over from where he's sitting, so she gets up to him, and she puts him into bed next to her and she's talking to Pinocchio. Because at this point, like here shortly, we get scenes where Pinocchio has a voice and they're like talking back and forth, But at this point, it's just her, and she talks about how she wishes he was a real boy, so she wouldn't be all alone.
Yeah, she's just lonely, man. She's having a tough time.
Yeah. So now it's the next day, and we have another scene where I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, there was some nudity where Sophia's in another unnecessary scene of Sophia in the shower.
Yeah. It's just, if you're watching this on YouTube, like we are, it kind of chops itself up. So that's the reason for the choppiness in this sequence.
Totally.
But yeah, it's like she's like taking a shower or whatever, and she isn't. It's not her stumbling on Pinocchio. Pinocchio kind of.
Well, she comes out.
Her, right?
She comes out from the shower, and as she's drying off, she turns around to see that the Pinocchio is sitting on the edge of the bed, like having watched her this whole time.
Get some more eye shots of Pinocchio during this sequence.
Totally.
Okay, the eyes are there.
Yeah, she gets closer and like is about to reach out to touch him when Zoe runs up and asks her what she's doing with Pinocchio, and then Zoe grabs him and walks off. And then then we see that she has another therapy session, and they're talking about Pinocchio and how David might have hurt his feelings, and she talks about how about her mom and David, and how if David takes her mom away, that she won't have anybody. It's just a really quick scene.
Yeah, exactly. Because then it immediately takes you back to the house, where Zoe's working on something, Pinocchio's on the couch, and the therapy scene is kind of weird because I feel like it does serve, like right before this, it just serves to establish, like, again, sort of that, like, she's afraid to lose people or already feels,
right,
alone.
Which is valid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Jennifer is talking to Zoe about the incident with Sophia earlier, and Zoe says that Pinocchio was curious about women's bodies. And then mentions that he was curious after hearing. She basically says that Pinocchio was curious about after hearing her mom and David going to Pound Town the night before.
And then and this is where she unveils to Zoe the present that Jennifer got her, which is another doll, a
female life-size doll.
Yeah. And then that's because Jennifer's trying to then she brings up that Pinocchio's like not ours, right?
Yeah, he's just visiting. Yeah. And that upsets Zoe, you know what I mean? She doesn't want him to leave.
Yeah. I mean, it is baffling the entire time of this movie how long this lady supposedly holds on to this piece of evidence in a murder trial at her house. True.
And then in the next scene, we get the first shot of Pinocchio kind of moving on his own because Zoe's in bed, and Pinocchio moves on his own to get to her side of the bed, and she lets him in next to her, and cuddles him and falls asleep.
Yeah, dude. Pinocchio is he's playing the charm thing right now. You just know it. Okay. It's also just strange because it is like a bit of a jump scare moment, but it's funny. I gotta be honest, like when you have scenes like this where they move the doll, you really can hear like the bits of the doll kind of getting moved. Like it's like a real, tangible puppet that they have. And so you can hear it like the wood kind of like creaking and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it picks back up at another school day. Well, not really. It just shows Zoe getting dropped off at school, I believe.
Yeah. Sophia drops her off. She has the Pinocchio doll.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Sophia's like talking back with Jennifer, talking with her because Jennifer asks Sophia where Pinocchio is, and she lets her know that Zoe brought him to school. Yeah. And then she notices something awry with the doll from earlier.
Yeah, I was gonna say this doesn't count as a body count, but
No.
but yeah, they like see like a leg sticking out of like the underneath the bed or whatever from the
couch. The couch.
And yeah, like Jennifer goes and like pulls this doll out from under the couch, and it's like got like a hole punched in its chest, and like something like, you know, fucked up happened to the head and stuff. And
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, I don't know, somebody took out some anger on this thing.
Mhm.
But then it cuts to this.
Oh my God.
Just a chef's kiss of a sequence.
It's so ridiculous.
So it cuts to Beth apparently at some point in time had gotten a hold of Pinocchio, and like they're like, she's like running. And this, I mean, I love the shot. She like throws Pinocchio up and over this fence, and there's this very clear cut. The fence is huge. There's no way this little girl is throwing this wooden Pinocchio doll this high up in the air. But like the Pinocchio doll goes flying up and over the fence. It's like super tall fence.
There's no way.
There's just no way. It's just such a funny cut. And you know, Zoe runs around and then finds the doll, you know, kind of just like mashed, you know, just on the cement, like, what are you doing, Pinocchio? Like,
and he's holding a rake.
Yeah, randomly Pinocchio has a fucking rake now. And oh God, dude.
You know what's one of the things that's so ridiculous about this next scene is I have never seen a rake with a handle this long, because it's like, because you know what I mean? They're on the other side of this fence.
Yeah.
For them to stick this rake through, pop out another couple of like feet on the other side of the fence to go through the tie. Like, it's
fucking, yeah, it's ridiculous. And so like you're just saying, basically what happens now is like you see Beth go get on her bike and start riding, and Pinocchio shoves the rake through the fence line and jams it into her spokes, and so, you know, Beth just goes eating shit, and then this bus comes and fucking runs her the hell over. like it is the most wild sequence, because like, you know, Beth screams and like, you see this shot of the driver being like, oh shit, you know, and goosh, you see like the bike get run over. And but the most shocking fucking thing is that like Beth survives, dude. Like Beth gets fucking plowed head on by the school bus.
I don't understand why they just didn't let her die there. Like,
right.
It's just so random. Like, why do all of that just for this character to not die? And then not only that, but not be featured in the movie at all anymore here on out.
That's what I mean,
what
dude.
What were they thinking?
Just fucking kill the character off. Give us some blood, man. We want that satisfaction. But no, like they like pick her up and she's like, oh, she'll be all right, and they like rush her off to the hospital. Oh, dude,
it's so bad.
It's so ridiculous. It's crazy. But it's also one of my favorite scenes in the fucking movie.
Yeah, it's just hilarious.
It's just so
great.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't understand why they did that. Like, they should have just had her get fucking mauled and run over and destroyed. But no.
Yeah,
because she's not in the movie at all, and it just has no bearing, like, really, over the plot at all. But anyway, so after that happens, we see Jennifer is talking to Barry again about how Zoe is attached to Pinocchio, and she thinks that Barry put Pinocchio in her car the other day. But before she can kind of follow up with that, she gets a call from Dr. Edwards saying that Zoe showed up to her office, and that Zoe's claiming that Pinocchio caused the incident at school. And then this is where I'm talking about, where they just like decided to throw in like whatever like psychologist mumbo jumbo they could, because Dr. Edwards tells Jennifer that he thinks Zoe has formed a compulsive dependent attachment to the doll, and that separation at this point could be traumatic.
My God, dude.
It's a fucking doll. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. Like, it's been in our life for like 2 days now.
It's out fucking rageous.
Yeah. And this is like where, you know, Jennifer does say like she, you know, like, I'm planning on taking it back, but it's like, why haven't you by now then? Like,
no shit. Yeah, really though.
Like you just keep saying you're going to, but you don't. You don't.
You've had chances. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah. So now she's driving Zoe home, and she asks Zoe if she knows what happened to the new Betty doll, and Zoe tells her that Pinocchio was jealous, and that he was also just protecting her at school, that he didn't mean to do bad things. He doesn't know the difference between right and wrong.
Oh, Pinocchio doesn't know the difference. Yeah, it's just interesting. It continues, like you really don't. I don't know. It's hard to tell at this point in the movie, like if Pinocchio's sinister or if it's, other things, but like, you get these like shots all the time, like even in this scene where it's like, she's talking to Zoe about it, and then like, you'll see like a shot of like Pinocchio like in the rear view mirror, but it makes it look like Pinocchio's looking at you, and I don't know, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, then you get like another scene where Jennifer and David are in bed and talking about the situation. Yeah,
it's kind of pointless.
Yeah,
nothing of note. This happened. You know what I mean? And then that's what I'm saying, where there's so many like scenes that are just not important, because we get we follow that scene up with this scene of Jennifer is at work talking to like this lawyer from earlier. They have like a client with her. Apparently this client had tortured someone to death with the blowtorch and recorded it. And it's just
it's a gnarly storyline that they like put in there, like where it's like this guy, like, yeah. And they even play like a tape where it's like supposedly this dude blow torching somebody, but
right.
It has no bearing on like the movie.
Not at all. But because it's just so weird, because
it also goes on for a while, like too long, if you ask me. Like they like literally play this tape of just like somebody screaming for like almost like a minute or two. Like it's just fucking crazy. It's like weird that they put I don't know, it slows things down, if you ask me, right here.
Totally. Then we go back to the house where Sophia's cleaning the kitchen. She sees the stuffed killer whale in the garbage can. Then she gets a phone call from Jennifer talking about how she's going to be late. And then Sophia is like, well, I have an appointment to go update my work visa. Like it's the most random reason to like get her to not be in the movie for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of all the things you could have her do. It's
just,
like,
she could have had a nail appointment or a date, but yeah, she has to go update her work visa. So, she tells Sophia it's okay, go do what you got to do. I'm going to call David over to babysit. Yeah. And then we cut back to Jennifer's talking to this client again, who apparently this client had sold a bunch of heroin from this person that he killed and stole the heroin from, that people died from an overdose. And then he goes on with like all this psycho shit about how the television told him to kill the person. And then there's this hilarious part where he's doing all this talking and you see her with a pad of paper and she writes down insanity defense.
Just like, we just got to commit to it. That's all we got. Insanity.
Yeah.
Insanity it is. Yeah. She also like asks him like, are you sure you didn't like watch like a television program on like vigilantes or something to maybe inspire you? It's like, what the fuck are you fishing for here?
It's
dude?
just like, another really
like
a filler scene that just really is not important at all. Just adds, it's just like, I don't understand that sometimes in movies, why like instead of putting in these scenes that have nothing to do with like the overall arc of the movie or anything, like just cut those scenes out, even if the movie is shorter. Like what, like, oh my God, it's frustrating.
Yeah. But then it kind of picks back up with Zoe and David. And Zoe's like doing some homework or something. David's like, yo, it's bedtime. and offers to go tuck her in, but Zoe just picks up Pinocchio and is like, nah, I'm good. And like, well, walks out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is like one of the, like, I think it's the first sequence where you hear Pinocchio talk.
Yes, it is.
Right?
It is. Yep.
And I don't know what I was expecting when I watched like this, watch this and think like, what's the voice going to be for Pinocchio? But it is not the voice that they picked. It is like every time Pinocchio talks, it's like, it's not as long as David's around.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's like this nasally child. I don't know.
It's almost as annoying as Zoe's voice. Like, why did they go with that? Instead of like a more menacing, sinister.
That's what I mean.
Makes no sense.
Like the way that things.
That's a perfect. Do that again. Do that impression again.
What was it? Getting rid of David would be a good thing.
That's what it sounds like.
It's so true though. It's fucking bizarre. And like, I don't know, man. Like it makes you just like cringe a little bit. Like, you're like, oh.
Yeah, because she talks. That's right. Because she talks about how he needs to stop doing like bad things because they'll take him away and he'll never get to be a real boy or her brother. And Pinocchio's like, we can't be too sure about mom as long as David's around. Yeah, like you said, he oh my god,
it's so bad. And
so getting rid of David would be a good thing.
Yeah, this is like what
he has another great. He does have a great line here where after he says getting rid of David would be a good thing, where he goes, same way that punishing that bitch at school was a good thing.
Yeah, that's right, dude. But it's in that bitch at school.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh my god, I don't know.
It's like so cartoonish.
It's bad.
It's bad. Certified. But so then you kind of like, must be like a little later in the night. Zoe wakes up and finds that Pinocchio's not in the room with her anymore.
Pinocchio!
Yeah.
Pinocchio! God, her voice. Her voice.
And so she like kind of goes out in the hallway, and at the end of the hallway you see like a shadowy, and you kind of hear like some scampering, down the fucking hall.
A scampering sound effect. At least I will say one thing, because we've had 2 movies in a row with it. At least there wasn't a whoosh sound effect.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
The sound of a healthy uppercut, that's for sure.
Yep.
But so Zoe's like looking around for Pinocchio, and David, like, it's like on the couch, pops up and like, oh, I can go to the basement for you. And because, assuming that Zoe forgot the Pinocchio doll in the basement or whatever. But anytime somebody goes to the basement, particularly by themselves, it's in a horror movie,
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea. And so David kind of goes down to the basement, looking around through a few things. And then, all of a sudden the lights get turned off. And the first immediate thing he does is like, he turns around. Well, he blames Zoe, right? He's like, okay, Zoe, like knock off this, hooliganry or whatever. And then he like turns around, like knocks his like leg into something. That's your first kind of like, tense moment where you're like, something's about to happen. But then he gets up to the basement door, and then gets like, I don't know, like smacked down.
It is so bad. Like it is hilarious though, because you like
the force though.
He gets to the top of the stairs, and we get this hilarious shot where the door like swings like. They should have done the sound because the door just like swings and hits him in the face. It is so hilarious, and it just sends him like ass over tea kettle down the fucking down the steps. He smashes through a railing at the end, and then the camera cuts to a view from like the top where we see a pool of blood start to come out from under his head.
Yeah, and then the door like kind of slowly closes, like darkness. But dude, like the force at which he goes flying down,
right,
because like that railing you're talking about him breaking through, like you see like the stunt person like they're toppling, and then it's almost like they just jumped, through the railing behind them.
right.
This is great. It's a great shot. But
it's ridiculous.
But then it picks up with Jennifer getting to the hospital and Zoe, all this commotion's happening, and like you find out that like David survived, but is like in bad shape at the hospital or whatever.
Yeah.
And kind of like right off this scene, like you get this great back and forth between Zoe and Pinocchio, where she's like, did you push David down the stairs? And she keeps asking, and it shows this is the only time you get like a nose growth-esque kind of illusion.
Oh yeah,
where it's like like this, like it shows like his Pinocchio's shadow on the wall, and based on the angle of the camera, it kind of like makes it look like his nose extends, but like he's as he's lying to Zoe about not doing it or whatever.
Yeah, and then he has a line where he's like, Mom would have to spend a lot more time with us if Sophia wasn't around.
Yeah, dude. Fucking
that dastardly Pinocchio.
Yeah, they're just trying to take him out, man, one by one. It's just so like, and that's kind of it. Like, so there's something sinister going on if it's just like one after another. It's like, oh, we could have Mom could have more time for us if this person's gone, or what about with this person or this person's gone? It's like,
right.
I don't know. It's strange, but this kind of like leads to like Jennifer leaves Zoe home from school for the day or whatever, and
first you're kind of. First, we see there's a scene where Jennifer's heading to work, and Zoe's like by a bush doing something, and Zoe's telling her mom that she's getting bugs for science today. Then she leaves, and this is when Sophia heads outside and tells Zoe, asked about the killer whale in the trash, and then switches to the topic of finding a cricket for Pinocchio so he'll stop doing the bad things. And she tells him that in the version that she read, that Pinocchio accidentally squashed the cricket during a tantrum.
Oh shit.
And then we get
there goes your conscience.
Right. And then we get we're back to Dr. Edwards' office. And this is where things kind of get because we have this scene here that gets called back later. You know what I mean? But we have, she's in a session with Dr. Edwards. He's talking about David's accident, and then he gets a call from his secretary to apparently there's the delivery man there, and that he wanted to speak to the delivery man for whatever reason the next time he came. So he leaves, and this is when Zoe and Pinocchio get into an argument over who hurt David, with Pinocchio saying it was her, and she ends up, getting upset and putting her hands over her ears and telling him to shut up. And then Dr. Edwards comes back in to see like the tail end of her freak out.
Yeah. And this is like in this back and forth between Zoe and Pinocchio, like you're actually like the doll's actually like mouth is moving and stuff as it's talking back in this scene. So it's kind of like, again, you're just sort of like, oh shit. Okay. Like you're getting more exposed to perhaps the life, like the life in this doll, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. The classics like of Zoe with the handle there. Shut up.
It's so, Then we get a quick shot of Jennifer, who calls the hospital and learns that David has been upgraded to stable. Then she gets a call from Dr. Edwards, who wants her to come to the office the next day to talk. We see that we get a quick shot that Zoe's listening from the door in her room. She slams the door and looks at Pinocchio. Now you've done it.
Oh my god, dude.
Oh, and then we get this great scene where Pinocchio tells Zoe, you know, that he could go talk to David and admit that it was him, and tells Zoe to give him to life, and that she's the blue fairy from the story, and tells her to cut his strings. So she does. She grabs a pair of scissors, cuts him free, and he promises to be good. He says, and then he talks about,
I promise.
yeah, he's free. Let's go see David. So,
and
Pinocchio runs off first, and Zoe makes her way down the hall, sees her mom in the living room, but somehow both Pinocchio and Zoe were able to, sneak by without being seen or heard.
Oh man, and this is one of the first I think scenes where, you know, it's not a doll. You know, she cuts the strings and the doll maybe falls down, but then that pops like somebody very clearly in the suit, you know,
Vern
Troyer. And his dialogue, their dialogue, I'm free, and then runs out down the hall. It's just so great. But it's surprising that that Jennifer didn't notice either of them, honestly. Right. But yeah, Zoe kind of tries to follow Pinocchio down the road, almost gets ran over by a couple of fucking motorcycles.
Right.
Like, and you know, then that's when you kind of ends up losing Pinocchio. The shot of the motorcycles is cool.
Yeah, that was a cool shot because it looks like a car is heading her way, and she just like, for some reason, doesn't move, just gets frozen in place, and then as the lights get closer, two motorcycles split, and yeah, it was pretty cool. But the shots of like the Pinocchio walking are so hilarious.
Oh my god, dude, it's so it looks so bad. So
she's trying to follow Pinocchio, but we see that he's gotten pretty far ahead of her, and the next thing we get is another like waist high POV shot of someone making their way into the emergency room, somehow managing to walk through an entire hallway without being seen by anybody. And then they also have really good luck because the very first room that they dip into happens to be David's room.
Yeah. And in like classic sort of like cheeseball fashion, you know, David's like hooked up to some machines. You just see like somebody unplug one of the machines that's measuring his heart rate.
Yeah, the life support machine.
And next thing you know, it like flatlines David and he's fucking out. Like there's like a little, he's like convulsing a little bit and stuff. But it also looks like in this scene, and I mean, this is just such a really, random, obnoxious detail. In this scene, it looks like his arm is like strapped down. David's arm is like strapped down in bed. Weird. And I'm like, why the fuck would they strap him down? Like,
it's a good question.
He could have saved himself, man.
This movie has a really small body count. There's Vincent Gatto being electrocuted. There's this one, which is a very lame death scene. And then there's one more, which is also, obviously the Beth getting injured, but it's just like, that's one thing about the movie too. Like there's just the movie, there's bad acting, there's bad dialogue, there's bad pointless scenes, but as if like that, like sometimes a bad movie can be made up with the kills, and no, this is just like such a lackluster movie in every aspect.
It would have, like we've talked about, like if Beth would have been killed off, like it would have bolstered this movie even further for sure. But like you get this, off the scene of David dying, you get a scene where Jennifer gets a phone call on the news, and it's like somebody on the phone like, oh my god, David's dead.
It was David's mom. Yeah.
And and then like as soon as Jennifer gets off the phone, you have this
dude, her acting is so bad.
It's so bad. I was gonna say, like, you could tell the actress really tried, but it just did not land.
It is awful.
It's so
awful.
And and so it kind of transitions right there from like to Jennifer talking to the therapist again. Well, it transitions with you also get a shot of Pinocchio's eyes.
Of course you do. Yeah.
But the therapist has a tape that he wants to show Jennifer, and it's that scene, like you're saying, like it gets called back to, where it's it's the therapist and then Jennifer are watching Zoe have this like one-sided conversation.
Yeah, she's just talking to herself
with the doll, and it would be very troubling to see that.
Yeah, because he goes on to say how he wants Jennifer's permission to have her committed,
which is a huge step, by the way. Like if you ask me, like that wouldn't be the first response, I think, necessarily, but like that dude just like being like, okay, we need to commit her. We need to commit this motherfucker.
Well, yeah, because he goes on to mention, that she's disturbed, you know what I mean, and how, they just had this conversation where she's like, with my profession, I know what evil looks like, and she doesn't see it in Zoe, and he thinks that she's disturbed, and he tells Jennifer that he's going to notify the authorities, and then Jennifer's like, well, if you break your client-patient confidentiality, she threatens to have his license pulled and storms off. So, yeah, his little plan kind of backfired. But I thought it was cool, though. Like, it's like one of the only scenes that I like where it shows that video from their session, and it's just her talking to herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then that's a really, like, for the movie, it's a really clarifying point in the movie where you're just like, oh shit, okay, so like this is like got to be all up in her imagination then.
Totally.
Yeah, and like there's a kind of a couple of cool shots I'll say in this scene where like the camera is focused on like the reflection coming off of the black TV screen and stuff. So you see like the therapist and Jennifer kind of in that. I don't know. It had an all right look to it, I suppose. But then Jennifer ends up going home looking for Zoe, finds like Sophia just doing some laundry, and is like, "Where's Zoe?" And then finds her in bed with Pinocchio, where she tries, and this is when she like questions Zoe, like, where were you last night? Yeah,
because she notices the mud on her pajamas and her slippers, and Zoe just says that she went outside.
I went outside.
Yeah.
Fucking Christ.
Her voice, man. Anyway, so yeah, she says that she just went outside, and she's like, Zoe's like extra annoying in this scene. So Jennifer presses her, and Zoe's crying the whole time, saying that I wanted to go to the hospital to see David.
Jennifer's like, did you?
She goes on to say that she got lost. You know what I mean? And couldn't find him. She got lost. And Jennifer asks if she's sure, and Zoe says, honest. But I think Pinocchio did. And this is finally when Jennifer like has enough, takes Pinocchio and locks him in her fucking trunk of her car. Like finally.
Dude. Oh my God. Yeah.
Of course Zoe's like, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
And the dramatic music that swells during this whole sequence where she's like walking Pinocchio out to the car and stuff. But yeah, that dude, like,
what a brat.
You called it though. Like, I was like, as soon as Jennifer starts picking up Pinocchio, I was like, fucking finally, Jesus, dude. You think this doll's causing all sorts of problems. Now you're this doll in your murder trial. Like, you're now just getting rid of it. Like, what the fuck? Like, come on, about time. Right. But man, yeah, it's she puts him in the BMW trunk, but it doesn't seem like that's the end of it though, because you get like what seems to be like another kind of point of view shot, like where it's sort of from like the waist down maybe, or waist height, I guess, and it's like somebody's in the kitchen and grabs like a fucking knife. And so you're like, oh shit, did the doll get out? Like,
right.
And it basically, so, you find whoever you're following comes right into Jennifer's room. And at first you get this, like, it wakes up Jennifer and she gets this flash of like the silhouette of Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And then she turns on the light and it's Zoe standing there with a fucking knife in her hand.
That was like the one cool shot of the movie where it looks like Pinocchio's silhouette. She turns the light on and it's Zoe with the knife. Like, that was a cool shot.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, how terrifying as a fucking parent would that be to like wake up with your child next to you with holding a fucking butcher's knife?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, then she tries to comfort Zoe, being like, yeah, it's okay, like, I love you, like, you're good, like, Pinocchio can't hurt you.
I love you no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like it ends. That scene ends with like it's like a shot of the knife, and then it transitions into like Sophia cutting like a banana with the knife.
Right.
Great transition. And this is when Zoe stays home from school.
Yeah, Jennifer explains to Sophia that Zoe's staying home from school, asks her to keep an eye on her, and then she talks about how she is going to talk to her boss about maybe working from home for the next couple of weeks, and that tonight she has to make a stop, but she'll be home from work early. And this is where she goes back to the church to talk to the priest from earlier about if he believes in evil and if it could be a tangible, natural force. And she also talks more about how she thinks Vincent Gatto was protecting his son.
Yeah. With truth's coming to light. It's an interesting scene because you're finally sort of like, I don't know. It's you're starting to see Jennifer come around to this, like, these like almost supernatural realizations, if you will.
Yeah, because she references the Son of Sam killer and the Texas Tower sniper, and how both of these guys had heard voices. You know what I mean? And maybe it was like a evil force making them into killers. It's interesting.
Yeah, and
like one of the only interesting scenes in the movie. Yeah,
it provides like some interesting commentary, like, in terms of like mental health and like what it might drive people to do,
Totally.
But yeah, it's I don't know. It's a pretty heavy dialogue that they have, but kind of coming out of that cuff, you're back at the house with Zoe and Sophia.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like all's normal there, right? Like at first, they're just having some, clean. Like Sophia's just cleaning, Zoe's just bugging her about whatever
juice,
some juice, and that's when Zoe runs back up to her room at one point after.
Because she tells Sophia that she's worried about Pinocchio hurting her mom, and then Sophia reminds her about how she found that cricket to be the conscience.
Yeah. And then Zoe runs up to the room and like looks for like in the box where a cricket was, and the cricket smashed, and she just starts screaming.
Yeah. She screams bloody murder like she just watched her dad get murdered or something. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so I will say we have to kind of correct ourselves. We might not get a full on in this movie, but the next sequence, definitely.
It's so close.
It's so close. So you have this interesting shot.
It's another shitty kill scene too.
Oh yeah. Sophia's like looking down the hallway, and like the angle kind of like gets sort of weird. It's kind of, and then she gets like, I don't know, whapped in the head by a fucking fire.
She gets tripped. She gets tripped first.
Yeah, she gets tripped first, and it's like a, and then she gets like beaten down upon by this like fucking fire poker, and every time it hits her, it's like.
The only interesting part about that scene, though, is that it doesn't show you the hand of who's holding it. Just like it didn't show you the hand of who's pulling the plug, or you know what I mean. So yeah. Sophia gets beaten to death. It leaves
this mystery either way.
Right, and that's probably the most. She gets whacked to death with a fire poker.
It's the most graphic death in the movie.
Well, yeah. There's another scene coming up where Jennifer gets stabbed through the hand with a knife, and as crazy as it is, that's probably the most graphic scene in the movie. But it's not even that graphic. But yeah, so now Sophia, she just got whacked to death with the fire poker. And then we see it's nighttime now, and Jennifer's getting home, which, okay, she literally, like the scene before, talked about how she was going to be getting home early.
She shows up late in this fucking scene.
She's not very impeccable with her word, apparently.
Yeah, dude. And so it's like weird. The house is like all like dark and shit. Like, she's like walking through that. Jennifer's walking through the house. Again, it's another like, thunder and lightning are just reigning supreme tonight, apparently. And so it reminds you of that first scene you kind of, you start the movie with in a way. But she's walking through the house and, eventually stumbles upon fucking Sophia's body.
Mm-hmm.
And, you see her kind of bloodied up and shit. And then like, it's like, isn't it like oh my God, this is another one of those sequences where it's like
it's storming outside, you know what I mean? Like the power's out at this point.
Yeah. And so like when the lightning flashes, at one point you see like a flash of Zoe in the hallway, and Jennifer doesn't necessarily see her, but then like, Zoe kind of like runs at her, runs away. And then like in when she's running away from Jennifer, it kind of looks like at one point, like Pinocchio again.
Yeah.
It's sort of strange. And it's like how they do that back and forth.
Yeah. So she follows, Zoe runs by her. Jennifer follows her into the living room and like for some reason decides to try to look for her under the couch. Like why would she fit under there? And then she gets smacked in the side of the head with the fire poker. And then when she kind of like comes to, she sees that Zoe's holding the fire poker and crying, and tells her mom that she got the poker away from Pinocchio, but that they need to get out of there before he comes back. And then she runs off. And then Jennifer sees Pinocchio standing by the couch, like standing still. And then all of a sudden he pops to life and screams and starts running towards her. And she runs down the hall and he follows her. She makes it into Zoe's room and sits against the door and is trying to keep him out.
I love when the Pinocchio's chasing her. He's just like, die!
It's ridiculous.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, so he starts plunging the knife into the door. This is what I'm talking about, where her hand gets stabbed through, and it's probably the most brutal shot of the movie, but it's not even like remotely that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so mild in comparison, but it does happen like really, like it does look cool, like the sequence of it happening, because like her hand's on the door and like it's just like the blade just like pops through, and it's like it's not like a drawn out like sequence of like the stabbing. It's just like, I don't know, it was like the quickness of it kind of made it a little more like interesting, if you ask me. But yeah, like so she's like Jennifer's understandably like, oh fuck, but she hears Zoe out in the hallway still, or like out in the the other part of the house, and so it's like obviously as like a mother, a parent, you're like, okay, shit, I still got to go back out there. So she opens the door eventually,
right,
and then gets like knocked over by Pinocchio presumably or something, like who yells like gotcha, and like, and
oh yeah,
maybe like zips past or whatever. But
yeah, because he pushes the door, knocking her down to the ground. And then she has this weird scene where she hears all these like voices giggling around the room, and it has these different shots of all these dolls scattered around the room. There's a shadow of Pinocchio on the wall holding a knife when the lightning flashes, which is actually somewhat of a cool scene. And then he pops up behind Jennifer. He jumps on her shoulders, and they start a struggle. She gets away and runs toward the front door. And as she's going to open it, she hears Zoe from the living room, Mom, help me. So she goes into the living room and this is when Pinocchio jumps out at her again with a knife still in his hand. They get into another struggle. And then it was something that oh my God, the shot of her like throwing Pinocchio
Yeah, I was just gonna
through
say
the.
that.
Oh my god, damn!
Oh, it's so fucking funny. Like
It's so
like
bad.
struggling back and forth, and she's like, and then she just like hurls the doll like through the living room, and it just lands on this glass table.
Smashes through. It's so ridiculous, so hilarious.
Love it.
But then
This
we
is
get
it.
like this great like I'm saying, where you kind of saw it coming because it's alluded to in the movie, but this great like shock ending where she walks over and it's Zoe's body that's laying there, not Pinocchio's.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. Like I'll give it that. And so yeah, and then Jennifer just like
Faints.
just fucking faints, like passes out, like I don't know what the fuck's going on.
So bad.
And yeah, and then I feel like this is definitely something we see in movies. This is like it's reminded me of The Dentist in a way where it's like the end of the movie, it's like you're at a mental hospital, kind of like you see the outside of the building, and then next thing you know you get a shot of Zoe, who looks just like almost catatonic really, and just sort of like Jennifer's like, how long has she been like this, and the therapist is like explaining the situation, and you're just kind of slowly zooming out of this room where you find that like it's like a padded room with a single bed in it, and she's been checked the fuck in. She's committed.
And that's Dr. Edwards again, who Jennifer's talking about how I'm going to get my daughter out of here no matter how long it takes, and Dr. Edwards is like, I hope not, for your sake, I hope not. And then the movie ends with Jennifer's holding Zoe, and then what do we get?
Pinocchio's eyes.
Jesus Christ,
Dude,
yeah.
it's so
They overdid that. Like, god damn.
The looming blue eyes of Pinocchio. Just fucking redonkulous.
Dude, it's so bad.
Oh, this
Such
movie.
an awful movie.
Dude, it definitely like it has some laughable moments, but I think sort of similar to that the first pilot episode we did. It's like there's always going to be love, I think, for us in terms of this movie, but it definitely does not hold like a lot of shock value. No. There's like you said, the most brutal scene is like probably the stabbing scene. You get like a little bit of blood splatter on Sophia, but reality is this movie's a pretty like it's just pretty fucking bad and like really funny because of it.
Right.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. Like I like between like things like the Pinocchio puppet's like voice and everything. You just
my god, such a why? Like I'm still flabbergasted by the choice of the fucking Pinocchio voice.
I will never not be surprised by it when I watch this movie, but also like immediately it's just like that immediate like, yeah, why? What did you do? What did you? Why couldn't it be menacing? Why couldn't Pinocchio have a little gruffness to him? Oh, there goes my hand.
No shit. Yeah,
but
especially because it is a horror movie. You know what I mean? It's not. It's
a build as a horror. I don't know. Either way though, like I fucking love this movie. Like it's always gonna have a special place for me, which is why it had to be episode 50.
Totally.
Just off the cuff, do you have a rating for this movie?
Let's see. I would give it fuck. You go first.
I'd give it, let's see. I'd give it 7 out of 13. 7 out of 13 haunting Pinocchio blue eyes.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll give it 4 out of 9 Beth loves to do littles. The dialogue.
The dialogue is just so ridiculous. I mean, you can't. I don't think we've had another movie that we've done so far on this podcast where we've had a child bite another child's ear. So we did have that. You know,
yeah,
that's
true.
a first for the podcast.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll take what we can get with this movie.
Yeah. It also is the first movie where Vern Troyer plays a Pinocchio body double. So.
Yeah. Hopefully not the last.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if he ever did, but my God, yeah, this movie's a hell of a fucking thing, really. But there's a reason why it was direct to video, I suppose.
Right.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll have to leave episode 50 here, but we talked about, man, we're keep with us because we have some kind of creative juices flowing, really, it sounds like with this podcast. So we might just be dipping into some interesting stuff along the way, as well as kind of covering some more movies. So I just gotta say, man, 50 episodes. I hope you're still loving this as much as I am.
Of course.
And I just as always, man, I appreciate that we can make the time for each other to do this, and just share this love. So
yeah.
Do you have any last thoughts? Any final words?
Not really. You know what I mean? It's the weekend. Go watch some horror.
I like that. That needs to be on a t-shirt. That needs to be a quote from you on a t-shirt. It's the weekend. Go watch some horror. Dude, I have to make that happen. All right. Well, you corn dogs, thanks for listening. If you're a hot dog, dip yourself in that old Heart Radio cornmeal batter, fry yourself up into a corn dog. Fitz, we'll see him on the next one, right?
Yep.